Your portion is $1,200, my dad demanded me to pay for the dinner I was welcome at. I slammed the door. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. I stood outside the restaurant, fingers trembling against the cold glass door, watching my family through the window. They were laughing, toasting, celebrating without me, even though I'd been invited. I'm Olivia, 32F, and I've always been the family afterthought, the forgotten daughter, the invisible child. Despite graduating summa cum laude from Cornell, landing a senior position at a prestigious consulting firm, and building my own financial independence from scratch, I've never been enough for them. Never worthy of the spotlight that seems perpetually fixed on my younger sister, Madeline, 28F. I never thought a simple family celebration would be the final straw that broke 20 years of silent suffering. The pattern was established early. When Madeline got a participation award in her third grade spelling bee, my parents threw a backyard party with balloons, catered food, and invited the entire neighborhood. When I was accepted to Cornell on a partial merit scholarship, my mother merely glanced at the letter and asked if I'd be able to afford the remaining tuition on my own. When Madeline barely graduated high school, my parents gifted her a brand new car. When I graduated from college with honors, they couldn't attend because Madeline had a minor cold and needed their attention. Through the years, my attempts to address the imbalance were met with gaslighting. You're just jealous of your sister. You've always been so independent, you don't need us like she does. Don't be so dramatic, we love you both equally. Their words never matched their actions. I was invited to family events as an afterthought, often receiving last-minute texts after they'd already finalized plans. I'd show up to Christmas dinner to find everyone had opened presents hours earlier. Birthday celebrations for me were perfunctory, while Madeline's stretched across multiple days. The financial expectations started subtly. In college, despite working 3 jobs to pay my own tuition, my parents would call with emergencies. Madeline needed a new laptop for school, or they had to repair the family car she'd dented. They'd frame it as family helping family, reminding me that my campus jobs and scholarships meant I had extra money. I'd send what little I had, eating ramen for weeks afterward, while seeing Madeline's social media posts from restaurants and shopping trips. After graduation, it only intensified. My sister's car insurance, could I help cover it? Their anniversary gift to each other, wouldn't I want to contribute? Madeline's credit card debt, surely I could spare something from my big corporate salary? Each request came wrapped in obligation, delivered with the unspoken understanding that refusing meant I didn't love them enough. Last month, I received a major promotion to director level, the youngest in my company's history. When I called my parents with the news, my father answered, listened for 30 seconds, then passed the phone to my mother, who said she had to go because Madeline was coming over to show them photos from her weekend trip to the beach. Then came the text message last week: important family celebration dinner this Friday at La Maison, 7 p.m., try to make it if you can. No details, no explanation, just an afterthought invitation that somehow sparked a flutter of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was for my promotion. Perhaps they'd finally recognized my achievement. I rearranged my entire schedule, canceling an important client meeting. I purchased a $300 bottle of champagne as a sharing gift. I even bought a new dress, wanting to look my best for what I foolishly imagined might be my moment of family recognition. I arrived at La Maison, one of the most expensive restaurants in the city, precisely at 7 p.m. Through the window, I could see my entire family already seated: my parents, Madeline, both sets of grandparents, 3 aunts, 2 uncles, and several cousins. A banner hung above their table: "Congratulations on your promotion, Madeline." My stomach tightened, my throat constricted. Madeline had been promoted from junior sales associate to regular sales associate at the retail store where she'd worked part-time for 8 months. I pushed through the door anyway, champagne in hand, forcing a smile. The conversation at the table died as I approached. My mother's face tightened with obvious annoyance. I looked at the table. Every seat was filled, every place setting complete, every water glass full, no spot for me. "Olivia," my mother whispered sharply, rising slightly from her chair and moving to intercept me before I reached the table fully. "There's no seat for you, we didn't think you'd actually come." The buzzing in my ears nearly drowned out her words. I felt a hot flush creep up my neck as 15 pairs of family eyes fixed on me, witnessing my humiliation. You said it was important, I managed. Well, yes, for Madeline, she replied, her voice low but cutting. You know how busy you always are with work. We didn't want to pressure you. In that moment, 20 years of being the family afterthought crystallized into perfect clarity. I placed the champagne bottle silently on the edge of their table, turned, and walked out without another word. My hands couldn't stop shaking during the drive home. Tears blurred my vision, but I refused to pull over. I needed the sanctuary of my apartment, the one space in the world that was truly mine. The knock on my door the next afternoon wasn't unexpected, but the reason for it was. My parents stood in the hallway, their faces bearing no contrition, only expectation. That familiar expression, the one that had preceded every financial demand throughout my life. My stomach clenched in anticipation. The air between us felt charged, electric with unspoken entitlement. The bill came to $4,800, my father said, without preamble, once I'd let them in. His voice carried the same tone he'd used when calling me during finals week my sophomore year, informing me that Madeline needed $2,000 for a study abroad program deposit. Your portion is $1,200. I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. My portion? I wasn't even at the dinner. You were invited, my mother interjected, arms crossed. We had to pay for the reservation based on the original headcount. That included you. You just told me yesterday that you never expected me to come, I replied, my voice steady despite the tremor building inside me. My father waved his hand dismissively. That's not the point. This was a family celebration. You make good money now with that fancy promotion of yours, Family Helps Family. After everything we've done for you, my mother added, her voice taking on the wounded tone she'd perfected over decades, I can't believe you'd quibble over helping us celebrate your sister's achievement. The audacity left me breathless. Everything they'd done for me, the college tuition I'd paid myself with scholarships and 3 jobs, the graduation they'd skipped, the birthdays forgotten. I won't be paying for a dinner I wasn't welcome at, I said finally, my voice quiet but firm. My father's face darkened. So that's how it is. After all these years, you're still jealous of your sister's successes? This isn't about Madeline, I countered. It's always about Madeline with you, my mother snapped. You've resented her from the day she was born. We try to include you, but you're always working or too busy or too important for family, and now you refuse to contribute to her special day. I need you both to leave, I said, moving toward the door. They gathered themselves with indignant huffs, my mother's eyes brimming with manufactured tears. You'll regret this selfishness, my father said as they stepped into the hallway. Family is forever, Olivia. Your fancy job won't keep you warm at night. The door closed behind them with a soft click that belied the emotional hurricane they'd left in their wake. I foolishly thought that would be the end of it. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. In the middle of my morning coffee, before I'd even fully woken up, I discovered my family's coordinated attack. My mother had posted a heart-wrenching status about being abandoned by an ungrateful daughter who refuses to celebrate her sister's accomplishments out of jealousy. She'd carefully crafted herself as the heartbroken mother who doesn't understand where we went wrong raising her. Madeline's post was more direct. When your own sister refuses to show up for your promotion dinner, then won't even help with the bill, I guess blood isn't always thicker than water. Cousins, aunts, and uncles piled on with supportive comments about how they'd witnessed my coldness at family gatherings for years, how I thought I was too good for the family now that I had money and success. The carefully constructed narrative painted me as the villain of a story they'd been writing my entire life. Text messages poured in from extended family members. How could you do this to your mother? Madeline has always supported you. You've changed, and not for the better. I sank to my kitchen floor, phone clutched in my trembling hand, and finally allowed the tears to come. Not gentle tears, but body-racking sobs that left me gasping. Years of emotional neglect crystallized in this moment of coordinated public humiliation. That evening, I called my therapist for an emergency session. What they're doing is emotional abuse, she said simply after I'd unloaded everything. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Her words echoed in my mind for days as I watched the smear campaign continue. My work suffered. I couldn't sleep. The anxiety that had been my lifelong companion from growing up in that household returned with a vengeance. Then came an unexpected text from my cousin Eliza, my mother's sister's daughter. "I know the truth, Olivia. I've seen how they treat you for years. This isn't right." That single message became my tipping point. I spent the next day compiling evidence, screenshots of the last-minute invitation text, photos of past family events where I'd clearly been an afterthought, documented instances of my achievements being ignored while Madeline's minor accomplishments were celebrated lavishly. I even had emails from previous attempts to discuss the favoritism with my parents, met with denial and accusations. My hands trembled as I crafted a social media post. Not emotional, not accusatory, just factual. I documented the years of favoritism, the last-minute invitation, my arrival at the restaurant to find no place for me. My parents showed up the next day demanding $1,200 for a dinner I hadn't attended, the pattern of emotional manipulation that had defined my entire life. My finger hovered over the post button for nearly an hour as my mind raced with potential consequences. Would this sever my family relationships forever? Did those relationships even truly exist? Was I just playing into their narrative by responding publicly? In the end, the truth won out. I pressed post, turned off my phone, and went for a long walk along the river, giving myself permission to be unavailable for the explosion I knew would follow. When I returned home and turned my phone back on 3 hours later, the response was overwhelming. My parents' response was swift and menacing. My father, a mid-level manager at an insurance company who'd always exaggerated his connections and influence, sent an email copied to his company's legal department claiming I had committed actionable defamation with significant financial damages. The company lawyer, clearly uncomfortable, responded with boilerplate language about reviewing the matter, but my father forwarded it as proof the lawsuit was being prepared. My mother called my workplace, speaking to our receptionist about how concerned she was that her daughter was having a mental breakdown and spreading falsehoods about family members, suggesting to HR that I might be unstable. I only discovered this because my director, who knew my work ethic and character, immediately alerted me to the attempt to undermine my professional reputation. Madeline had posted a tearful video claiming I was destroying our family out of spite. My father had texted that I would regret this public betrayal for the rest of your life, followed by a thinly veiled threat that he knew people who could ensure I'd never work in this industry again. Their intimidation tactics, so familiar from childhood but now directed at my adult life and career, struck a deeper chord of fear than I wanted to admit. My hands trembled as I forwarded the communications to my own lawyer friend for review. The cold weight of panic pressed against my chest, that old familiar sensation of being cornered by their manipulation. But there were other responses too. Eliza had publicly confirmed my account and added her own experiences witnessing their treatment of me. 2 other cousins had reached out privately to offer support. My uncle, who had always been kind to me but distant, posted a simple comment. "Having witnessed this pattern for decades, I can confirm Olivia's account is accurate." Most surprisingly, my childhood friend, who had attended many family functions with me over the years, wrote a lengthy comment detailing specific instances of favoritism she'd observed, telling me she'd always felt uncomfortable but hadn't known how to address it. The tide of public opinion began to shift as more people came forward. Eliza revealed that for the celebration dinner, my parents had explicitly told the family, "Don't mention it to Olivia until the last minute. She probably won't come anyway." My parents' attempts to regain control of the narrative grew increasingly desperate. My mother posted old photos of us together with captions about how she'd always supported both her daughters equally. My father wrote about the sacrifices they'd made for my education. None. Madeline accused me of always needing to be the center of attention, an ironic claim given the circumstances. None of it worked. The truth, once exposed to light, refused to retreat back into shadow. 3 days after my post, I made the hardest and healthiest decision of my life. I cut contact with my immediate family. I blocked their numbers, emails, and social media accounts. I instructed my building's doorman not to allow them entry. I informed my workplace security that they were not to be admitted. The relief was immediate and profound. A weight I'd carried my entire life, the desperate need for parental approval that would never come, lifted from my shoulders. The anxiety that had plagued me since childhood began to recede, replaced by a calm certainty that I had finally taken control of my own narrative. I built a support system of chosen family, close friends, supportive extended family members, colleagues who valued my work and worth. Weekly therapy sessions helped me understand the dynamics of emotional abuse and scapegoating that had defined my upbringing. I learned that the problem had never been me. I had simply been assigned a role in their family drama from the beginning, and no achievement on my part would ever change that script. 3 months later, I received a private message from Madeline, the only family communication that made it through my blockade. I know they favored me, I always knew. It was easier to go along with it than to challenge them. You were stronger than me, but did you have to blow up our entire family? Couldn't you have just walked away quietly? I didn't respond. Her message revealed everything, acknowledgement of the truth, but still centering herself and her comfort over the decades of pain I'd endured. Still asking me to bear the burden silently so she wouldn't have to feel uncomfortable. Through mutual connections, I heard my parents were still playing the victims, still blaming me for tearing apart the family while refusing to acknowledge their role. They had attempted to reach me through intermediaries several times, not to apologize but to demand I fix the damage I'd caused to their reputations. I remained unmoved by their attempts. The girl who desperately sought their approval had finally grown into a woman who recognized her own worth. The most unexpected outcome of this painful chapter was reconnecting with my mother's estranged sister, Aunt Caroline. She reached out after seeing my post, revealing that she had experienced similar treatment from my grandparents decades earlier. She had been the family scapegoat while my mother was the golden child. The pattern had simply repeated with me and Madeline. "They did to you exactly what they did to me," she told me over coffee during our first meeting in 15 years. "The difference is you had the courage to name it." 1 year later, my life has transformed completely. My confidence in professional settings has soared without the constant undercurrent of familial inadequacy. I've formed deeper, more authentic friendships now that I understand healthy relationship dynamics. I've even started dating someone who comes from a supportive, loving family, something I once believed was just a myth perpetuated by television shows. I've created new holiday traditions with my chosen family. Last Thanksgiving, I hosted dinner for friends, extended family members who had supported me, and even a few colleagues who had nowhere else to go. The warmth and genuine connection in my dining room that day healed something deep within me. Through mutual friends, I've heard my parents still blame me entirely while portraying themselves as victims of an ungrateful daughter. Madeline recently got engaged, and they're planning an extravagant wedding, one I won't be invited to and wouldn't attend if I were. I no longer feel the sting of exclusion. I no longer crave their approval or recognition. I've finally understood that family isn't defined by blood but by love, respect, and reciprocity. The $1,200 dinner bill they demanded was the final invoice for a lifetime of emotional debt they tried to convince me I owed. By refusing to pay it, literally and metaphorically, I purchased my freedom. The empty seat at that celebration table wasn't a symbol of my exclusion but my liberation. Sometimes the most profound act of self-love is walking away from the table where you're served nothing but scraps and building your own table where everyone is truly welcome.